If you just state your name for the record.
Gabriel Lawrence.
And then Gabriel, tell the court what's ever on your heart or mind this morning. Go ahead.
Honestly, going through this whole court process has taken a toll on all of us. For 6 years, my family and I have been getting the shit end of the stick when it comes to my son's court case. It's like our feelings don't matter, and even though in the beginning we were told that my voice would have a say in things, and with the plea agreement that is being made, it's like that's been taken away from me. As a father or a parent, it is your job to protect your children at all costs. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I've continued to come. I won't stop spreading what has happened to my son at all. It'll keep going on as the days go on. As for Marcella, I hope that every day you wake up, you regret what you've done.
Judge, I guess I'm going to ask that any comments be addressed to the court rather than to Ms. Fonseca. I think it's more appropriate to address comments to the court.
I understand, Attorney Nelson, but he's a father, and the court's practice is within reason. I'll let the victim or the witness address the defendant. So,
Understood.
Understood, but go ahead, you can finish your thought.
I hope that every day you wake up and you regret for what you've done. And although you're getting away with it in this life, you won't escape it in the next. And I believe in karma, and whatever you put out into the universe will always find its way back. Maybe not today, and maybe not tomorrow, but you won't be able to escape it. Judge, before you make your final decision, I think she should serve the max penalties. She hasn't learned anything from this whole ordeal. She hasn't sat one day in prison to learn what she's done. Judge, I honestly hope that you do make a good decision here. I just feel like this will be a repeat if you don't let it. The next time I feel like it's going to be on your hands.
Understood, Gabriel. Anything else?
No, that'll be all.
Thank you very much. Is there anything you want? It doesn't have to be anything lengthy, but what are you feeling? What would you like to tell the court?
I'm sorry that we're all going through this. From my family to the other side's family. I know that I was a very young girl. But I've grown in many different ways. When I was 15, yes, I was out of control. Everybody has paperwork of it. But I've changed mentally. I'm not crazy anymore, like I don't get aggressive. I've been going to therapy once every 2 weeks because of my job. I don't want to get fired. I've been taking my medication. I've been sober. I've been doing everything right. I just would like the chance to keep staying out and being with my family. I'm very grateful that I'm even out. And I would like to be out. And I'm sorry that both sides of the family doesn't have it. I know it's hurting Gabe's family a lot. I understand. That's why when my lawyer told me, kept trying to interrupt, I told him to stop, let them talk, because I know how they feel, and I'd rather let them say in front of me. They keep holding it in, and I'm happy they did. I'm happy they said what they had to say. It doesn't. Since he's been gone, it's been hard on everyone. not just including the father's family, my mother, my sister's side, my family. It's also been hard on me too. Sitting in jail day and night, it has made me change. Yes, I get in altercations in jail. I was a teenager. I was wild, didn't care. But after a while, I started caring because I understand how severe these charges were. I understand how bad they got. So, Your Honor, on my behalf, please stay with this plea. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Marcelia. I'm glad you addressed the court. All right. I've already said I wish I could do more. Let me tell you my story about baby. I'm the oldest of 8 kids, and when I was probably 2 or 3, Mom had would have been our first sister. She was born premature at 7 months. Well, now in today's date, in today's world, she certainly would have survived. But in those days, preemies had a harder time, and she died at birth. We never really knew much about that. Mom never really said much about that child. And then, not too many years ago, I found out that Dad had purchased a tombstone at Webster Catholic Cemetery here in Green Bay. And there's a plot there that has all the babies that died over the years. You could go back to the 40s, and it just keeps going up. So I looked for little Mary, December 26, 1958, and I found her tombstone, and I cried. I cried for a sister I never knew. And she was a preemie. There was no criminal activity. That was so sad. Why am I saying that? The loss of a child is incredibly hard. And this is who we're talking about today. Look at little Ricky here. I appreciate all those photos. We're talking about a human being. Little Ricky, the Flash, right? You know, a superhero here. What a beautiful little boy. What a beautiful gift from God. Less than a year old. I appreciate what Milo said with his child. That's how Ricky would be today, and he never had a chance, right? The sentencing is for Marcella, but let's remember Ricky, because this is about Ricky. And to the family, sincerely, I appreciate everything I've heard, everything you've said, and I don't really disagree with any of your feelings or your thoughts. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably be saying much of the same things and probably not as articulately as you're saying. You have been given a life sentence. Absolutely. When someone is sexually assaulted, they lose their childhood and they're given, in effect, a life sentence. They're never the same. So I appreciate that. And that's the imperfection, one of them, in the criminal justice system. I wanted to see what everybody wanted to tell me today, and so I had this Justice for Baby Ricky, and there are a lot of things here about Marcelia trying to kill sister at the age of 6, and I think that was with a pillow, and then we had the fire that she thought was cool, and we know about some of the concerns that the family had with her at that time. And the court, we talked about this. The court is familiar with that. Ms. Lopez did a beautiful job of explaining things, but I just want to address that because apparently that's an issue. If that evidence had come in, that would have helped the case. That's not the role of a judge.
The judge is to ensure that everybody gets a fair trial. That could be Jeffrey Dahmer, it could be Jack the Ripper, that could be the worst son of a bitch in the world. If they're in court, they have to get a fair trial. And things that she did at 6 years old, or things that did not factually were similar to this situation, it's improper evidence that would not have resulted in a fair trial. And in my opinion, would have resulted in a reversal on appeal. Sometimes you'd like to have more evidence come in, but you can't if it's inappropriate. So you don't have to agree with the court, but I want you to know, I didn't think it was a close call. That evidence should not have been admitted. It was too remote and too prejudicial. What the jury had to do was make a decision on what was presented at trial. Now, I talked to a juror after the case. We were out for dinner at Chives, and one of the jurors came up to me. I wouldn't have recognized him. And he just shook his head and said how difficult that trial was. How difficult it was for all the jurors. It was very difficult. She could have been acquitted, or she could have been convicted. So now, where are we at today? We're here with a charge and a conviction for homicide by negligent handling of fire. So what Marcella is convicted of is a homicide. Marcella is convicted of killing Ricky, and that's what she did. She killed Ricky by the negligent use of fire. And I'm just going to put this on the record. I heard more about this case than most judges do. And I don't know what I would have done if I would have been a juror. You know, the whole issue is whether she intended to kill Ricky, because she killed him by setting this fire. And I don't know if anybody knows that except Marcella. And maybe she doesn't even know. I know that there are a lot of people not happy with the charge, but I will tell you, I think this charge is appropriate. I think it's an appropriate resolution to this tragic case, because this is what I think happened. The young woman in this courtroom today is not the same woman that I saw on that videotape from, I guess, 2019, when she was in that interview room for over 2 hours, pacing the floor, complaining about having to go to the bathroom, complaining about just wanting to get out and dropping all these F-bombs. She was a messed up 15-year-old kid and responsible, but she's 15 years old. Her sisters are in the bathroom. She's upset. It's early in the morning. I think what happened is Marcella, as she was prone to do, was impulsive, and she was angry. She had an anger issue. And inexplicably, she went, whether it was a cigarette or whatever, she started a fire in that room. It's terrible. It's stupid. And Marcella, I'm just... You know, I could go on and yell and rave. I'm not going to do rage, and I'm not going to do that. But do I think she tried to kill her nephew? I don't know. I really don't think so. I think there was equivocal testimony about her demeanor and what she was saying after the fire started and when the firefighters were there. But she said things and acted and did things that were totally inconsistent with someone who would be trying to kill someone. The baby's up there. You got to get him out of there. I don't think this 15-year-old was that had the ability to be that devious to try to fake this whole situation. Was she capable of it, given her history? Very much so, but I don't believe that the evidence necessarily proves it. I think a hung jury maybe wasn't that unexpected given the facts of the case. So I think that the resolution today, after hearing the trial closely and looking at the 100 exhibits or whatever, I think it's an appropriate disposition. It's saying that she killed Ricky by starting this fire. That's what she's convicted of. Problem is, what is the sentence? And that I concur with the family. I mean, 10 years with a 5-year initial confinement, that doesn't really seem appropriate to the court. But the court, the legislature, decrees that this is a Class G felony, and that's the maximum. 5 plus 5. And so I understand what Gabriel says, but you know, she's got 1,516 days in. That's over 4 years and almost 3 months. So the court would be imposing a 9-year prison sentence if I went to the maximum, and that, it isn't done, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And here's why. She's not going to get any programming in the prison with that amount of time. There's not enough time. She'll go in and she'll get out. And Attorney Nicholson's right. Most people say, get me the heck out of jail. I'd rather sit in prison. She sat 4 hard years in jail. Was that enough? I don't know. But it's probably worse than a prison sentence. It's what I'm telling the families. If I had more time to use, I probably would impose it, but I can't. Maximum is 5 years. Sellers already served for 4 years and 2 months. And also, because the bond was modified as a result of the hung jury, that would have been another 5 months. So she's been on basically house arrest for 5 more months, which gets you with about 4 months remaining. So the court has to be practical. I guess I have to note the Gallion factors. Gallion is a case. It says the court has to look at the seriousness of the crime. Well, it's the most serious. Take away the most innocent type of person. It's off the charts serious. In protection of the public, the family has got a good reason to say, is it going to happen again? Well, it better not. And if Sella would do anything, that's on her. Who's responsible for it? It's the person that commits the crime. And then you look at the character of the offender. She was a 15-year-old child. She was old enough to know better. She had a lot of things going on with her life. She had a lot of issues. And I suspect a lot of issues that still have to be rectified and hopefully will be on extended supervision. And then there's punishment and deterrence. I don't know how much deterrence anything has anymore with a sentence. But there's a limit to what the court can do with punishment. In effect, she did sit for 4.5 years without being convicted of any crime. 4 years and 2-3 months. And that's not insignificant either. Sella, I think it was very important for you to address the court, and there were 2 words I was waiting for you to say, and that's, I'm sorry. And you said that. Now, that might not mean much to anybody else, but it means a lot to the court. It tells me that at least you have an appreciation for what you did and the pain that you caused. And I understand Attorney Nicholson says you had a rough childhood, but that's no excuse. it was an impulsive, reckless, foolish act. And you've been convicted of that. And now the court has to impose a sentence. And again, I would just state, if I could, I would bring Ricky back. I see those photos, and I think of my own kids, and I think of my siblings growing up, and it is tragic. But what we're going to do today is the following, because what we're here for is the sentence of Ms. Fonseca. As a result of this homicide by negligent handling of a fire, I'm going to impose 4 years initial confinement, 5 years extended supervision. It isn't much of a tweaking of the joint recommendation, but I do think with Marcela's past, even though she's doing better, and that she should be given credit for that, the fact that she graduated, the fact that she is working, the fact that I think she recognizes her past, and she has a plan for going forward. It's still things that have to be worked on. And I think 5 years is appropriate. And I think it's certainly appropriate under the circumstances of this case. There will be conditions of extended supervision, Marcella. I do want 200 hours of community service because I think it's less than an hour a week, but I think that's appropriate under the circumstances. It's something positive for the community. It's something that you can do. I think it promotes your own self-esteem and worth. I want a psychiatric evaluation and follow through with whatever recommendations are made by any provider, healthcare provider. If you're on medications, take your medications as prescribed. Absolute sobriety. I do want an AODA assessment and follow through. If you don't have an issue now, that's fine. But I do want the assessment, and again, follow through with whatever recommendations are made. No handling of burning materials or flammables, that was part of the bond condition, and that can continue as part of your extended supervision. No contact with Mr. Charles or Gabriel or any of his family members. You've caused them enough pain already. Compass assessment, it's an assessment, Marcella, it'll let the agent know if you need any other counseling. And then the other condition is any counseling recommended by your agent. You just follow through and stay out of trouble. Because of the nature of the conviction, I'm going to find that you're not statutorily eligible for the Challenge Incarceration Program or the Substance Abuse Program. And I do find that there are, Attorney, let's say as far as the credit, do you agree on the 15-16?
I do, Your Honor.
Judge, I have a sheet I'll give the clerk.
All right.
Again, her arrest date was March 3rd of 2020. Her release date was April 26th of 2024, so I've tried to lay out the days per year, but we'll make that part of the record.
All right.
There is a request for restitution in the amount of $400. That's for lost wages for Mr. Juarez.
Sure. All right. So then what we're going to do this, I'll impose restitution in the amount of $400 for lost wages. And
Cash bail posted, so we'll come out of
all right. So that can come out of the cash bail. That's still in existence. And then the court will order 1,516 days credit against the prison sentence. Did I forget anything, Attorney Lassay? Okay.
No, Your Honor.
She does have to submit a DNA sample. I don't think there's one on file with the jail. So if that hasn't been taken care of, Attorney Nicholson, that has to be addressed, okay? Attorney Nelson, anything else?
No, Judge.
And everybody, thank you for your patience. I hope there's healing. God bless little Ricky.